NKC. Oh, rowdy.
No, man. That was good stuff, wasn't it? Man. That's some good truth. I love that last song. Why you gotta leave? Alright, so turn to Luke 12. Luke 12. Luke 12.
Does this thing have a mic on it?
Huh?
Does this thing have a mic on it?
Yeah.
So like it's like right here?
Yes, right there. They can hear you very loudly.
I just said something very embarrassing.
No.
I'll check the tape.
Okay.
Alright, see if I'm cool.
We make weird sides.
No, you're not cool.
Hi. Everybody say hi.
Hi.
Well, hey, we are, for the past couple Wednesdays, what have we been talking about? Who just said God? You win a prize, okay? We've been talking about God, right? But what have we been talking about specifically? Give me an answer. Don't give me a turn answer. Michael. Following Jesus, okay? But how do we actually follow Jesus? What's the number one thing? Discipleship, but to be discipled, we have to do what with Jesus? Oh, thank you, Brayden. Summer, you have to walk with him. You have to what? Be with him. Because I want you to remember that phrase. Like, genuinely, when it comes to following Jesus, when it comes to being discipled by Jesus, look at me in the eyes. You will not be a disciple of Jesus if you are not with him. There is no shortcuts. There is no cheat code, like figuring it out. Like, there is nothing that you can do to get around it. The only way you can grow in your faith is if you are with Jesus. And the only way that you spend time with Jesus and you're with Jesus is if you're in the Word with Him, you spend quality time. Don't go, well, I spent my 10 minutes of Jesus time this morning, so I'm good. Check. But it's the idea of, well, did I get the best 10 quality minutes I could possibly get out of that? Did I allow the Spirit to speak to me? Did I allow my mind to be open to what the Word might have for me? That might be a little bit harsh. Or it might be something that's encouraging. And did I allow my heart to be open to actually being changed and being affected by it? That's what it means to be with Jesus. But until then, that's something you have to do. I can't force you. Your parents can't force you. Well, they kind of can. But it's the idea of how many of you have spent time with a cousin that you didn't want to spend time with them. Yeah, or an uncle where you're like, I don't know what to talk to you about. It's, you're like, I don't know. It's that family member at the family reunion. You're like, go talk to Aunt Susie.
Oh.
Hi. And they're like, you want some Jello? Like, what's in that Jello? You know, like, it's weird. But it's this idea of you have to spend time and put effort and actually be intentional with your time with Jesus. Because until then, what does Jesus actually say about some people who don't come into the kingdom of God? They're like, I don't know you. I was even reading today where it says, like, go into the narrow gate, and the people knock outside the door, and he'll actually say, where did you come from? And so unless we spend time with Jesus, some of the things that we've been talking about the past couple of Wednesdays, which is, what does Jesus ask us to what? Do. Because we know we've got to be with Jesus, right? But as we spend time with Jesus, we're going to find out Jesus called us to do something. We kind of talked about the first week when it comes to going, hey, some of us look at what he's asked us to do and go, what did he really mean by love my neighbor? But it's the idea of, no, he asked you to love your neighbor. Don't put some blog into it and find some article to find some other context of it or some other type of meaning so that you can find a cheat code around being discipled by Jesus. Does that make sense? But it asked you, no, take the narrow way, take the hard way, which is to actually go and love your neighbor as yourself. That's hard. But even harder tonight, guys, we're going to be talking about something that I feel like a lot of us in this room, if not all of us in this room, is we're going to talk about anxiety. Now, who can give me a definition very loud so that people on the camera can hear, can hear? What is the definition for you personally? What is anxiety to you? Yes? Stress, something's on your mind? Okay. Something that's trying to eat at your brain? Ooh, that's actually a good description. Yeah.
When you're really stressed about one thing that's happening.
Okay. Can I push further? If you use the word stress, make sure you define stress too. Does that make sense? Because people like to intermittent anxiety and stress all the time. But what are they? What are they to you? Yes. Overthinking, questioning relationships. It's very good. Meredith? Thinking that people are judging you. Summer? Draining stress. Oh, like takes the energy or takes like the mental power? All of it. Physical and mental. Even spiritual too, huh? Jack? Hey, Jack! Jack didn't just say Jesus, he said something. Dang, man, that's really good. It's, first off, anxiety, fear. But then also stress of going, I don't know what to do right now. So you just kind of turmoil in this paralyzed state where you're just sitting there going, I have so much to do, but don't know what to do. You know, like, it's this scary moment. What do you think, Noah? You don't want to jump in Jack back there? Yeah, but what does that moment of being having a panic attack feel like? What does that mean? Super tense, you don't know what to do, you're kind of like shell-shocked. Andrew?
Kind of feel helpless.
Feel helpless. So, some of the things that we're going to be talking about, I would say there is a point where as a pastor, you like pastors love to define things, but for me, I don't think I can define anxiety for you tonight. Because anxiety is different for all of you. Okay? Anxiety is a place in your mind or in your heart or in your soul that there's a little chink in the armor that Satan loves to pick at to make you mentally, physically, and spiritually stop. And not only just stop, but like how many of you have had a problem in your life where you just focused on that one problem? Even though the entire house is burning down, you're like, there's a fry on the floor. You know, you're just like, and like the world is burning down. It's like you physically, emotionally can't think about anything else about that until that one thing has been solved. But not only that, you don't even know how to solve that problem. And so for all of you, it's different. And I will also say a lot of you react differently. So for me personally, the way I deal with anxiety and stress is I immediately love to put all the dirt that I can on top of it and hide it and then go, it's not there, let's go do something else. And then it's usually, if you ever see on my Instagram or at my house where all of a sudden I'm building something, I'm stressing. I literally went to the mountains. My wife has a cabin in Ruidoso, New Mexico, and it's like this tiny little cabin that they've had for 50 years, and they have all this wood, and I was like, I am gonna carve out a bear.
Oh, I remember that.
And I was just like, I all of a sudden, I was looking around, I was like, I need a chainsaw, I need something, and I found a grinder, and then I found, after the grinder, I went and found that there's this little blade that you can actually put on the end of a grinder that acts like a chainsaw, and then you can sculpt things. And so what I did for 6 hours, out in the middle of the forest with an extension cord that was very long, and I just went to town on this log, and I started sculpting, and I came back, and I'm completely covered in pine, dust, and I'm sticky because it was wet wood, and the bear's in my office if you want to see it. And so, but I'm sitting there and I'm going, and I'll never forget, my wife's like, this looks awesome. What's going on? You know, nothing's going on. And legitimately, in that moment, I was trying to cover up the anxiety that I was feeling, and I'm going to be transparent with y'all. The anxiety and the stress of starting a student ministry in middle school where I only get 25 minutes with you before you go off, and I don't get to see you on a Wednesday night, or I don't get to really see you on a Sunday night. And how is the Lord going to bless what we're doing? Even in that stress, and Nicole, nailing on the head, man, I didn't know what the Lord had. Look around this room. This is what I didn't know. blessed we are to have God as our Savior, to have Jesus as our Lord. Even through our stress and anxiety, we can trust Him. So we're going to be looking at Luke 12, 22 through 34. Okay, so Luke 12, if I told you wrong, I apologize. We're going to be in Luke 12. We're going to be looking at, hey, some practices to help you with anxiety. Because what's the title above verse 22? Is there a cure for anxiety?
Says do not be.
Okay, so the only thing I don't agree with the CSB Bible, okay? What I think they meant was, hey, this is a type of solution for anxiety. Because there's multiple solutions, but a solution doesn't always fix the problem ultimately. But I would say all of us get multiple problems throughout a month or a week or a day or even an hour, and we need to come up with solutions for those moments. Because if we don't come up with solutions for those moments, we all of a sudden go, and we explode, okay? And so what is the actual solution for anxiety? Okay? So, verse 22, it says, Then he said to his disciples, Therefore I tell you, don't worry about your life, and what you will eat, or about your body, or what you will wear. Now, how many of you genuinely worry about the things that you eat on a daily basis? Okay, wow. Actually, this is a very, actually keep the hands up. If you actually care about food, what you actually worry about. The girls, man, they're like, I want to eat, and the guys are like, just put anything in front of me, I don't care. You know, like, but genuinely, are you worried that you're not going to eat? Like, that nothing's going to be provided for you at your home? If so, blink twice, you need help. Okay, like, we're going to get you some food. But then also, how many of you genuinely don't know about the clothes that you're going to wear tomorrow? Some of you boys are like, I'm going to wear this. You know, but girls, we sit there and we're like, what am I going to wear tomorrow? But you still have what? Clothes. There's no worry that it's not going to be there, right? But then also, it says to worry about your body. That the idea of like, what these disciples were actually worried about was disease and like being starved and not have like all the anxiety and the stress they have. This isn't just meaning just the three basic things, is what I'm saying. And when we think about it, for us guys, how many of us have been stressed in 2020? You know, how many of us have been stressed being isolated, being stressed about school, what that'll look like, being stressed about going to a new school that I wasn't even allowed to like visit prior, and I'm just walking in the first day going, high school, you know, like junior high, and then all of a sudden you just have to figure it out. But not only that, you've got political war, you've got racial war, you've got all these different things that people are looking at you going, what's your answer on this? What do you believe? If you don't believe in what I believe, you're going down. You know, like, and people are looking for that fight. And so you're walking down the hallways trying to avoid eye contact because you know if anyone looks at you and they ask you for your opinion, they might roast you. They might burn you. Or if you don't have your stuff together, they're going to completely discredit you and call you a bigot. If you believe in Jesus, then you believe in this and this and this and this, and you haven't even said anything. You know what I mean? Your political side, you believe in this and this and this and this. But on top of that, going, well, is my parents, or are my parents actually going to get a job? My parents going to get laid off. My mom has to go back to work. All these things change. And stress and anxiety comes up. And we worry about our lives, what we'll eat, about the body, what you will wear. Verse 23, the first one, it says, For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. The first thing is we need to widen your perspective. You need to widen your perspective. Knowing that sometimes when we look at a problem, how many of us get tunnel vision on that problem? For me, I get real tunnel vision. For some of you, you go, there's a problem, look at everything else, you know, and I would also say that that's tunnel vision. Just flip the funnel the other way, and you're like, look at everything else, you know, and either you're focusing in on it, or you're focusing not on it at all. And at the same time, it's all about one perspective, and it was that problem, that stress, that anxiety that hit you, that chink in your armor where Satan is just continuing to scratch and continuing to make you stop and not think about the wider perspective. Because if we look at verse 23, it says, For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Guys, through all the things that were canceled for y'all, you gotta know, I'm not looking at you going, poor babies, but like genuinely like, I'm sorry. There was a lot of things that was ripped from you. Whether that was your last year in junior high, your last year of, I don't know, I can't name them all because of all the things that, to be honest, you had to sacrifice. But also understanding we're all alive. We're all hopefully healthy. If not, please leave. But it is one of those things, guys, to step back and understand. I've taken a lot of this stuff for granted. I've taken school and relationships for granted. I've taken sports and relationships with others and those for granted. I've taken church and Bible studies and discipleship for granted. Because all of a sudden, when you widen your perspective, you go, okay, ultimately, life is so much more than this one problem. And I'm trying to pick one that maybe it's not like a sore spot, but like a canceled soccer game. There is so much more of this world, and like what Nicole said, there is such a bigger plan behind it. And it's hard sometimes to actually stop and force yourself to think there's something bigger, there's something bigger. But if we're not spending time with Jesus, we're not with Jesus, who does point in the bigger picture, it's very easy for Satan to lie to us, right? So we've got to widen our perspective by spending time with Jesus. Second thing, okay? Awesome. All right, 24. It says, consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap. What does it mean to sow? Plant. What does it mean to reap? Harvest. Thank you, FFA. Awesome. It's to sow seed and reap. So, do birds have fingers? If they did, it'd be really creepy. Okay. How many of you don't like birds? Come on now. Thank you. The black birds that are over at Kroger, those things are aggressive, they're mean, and some of them have nubs for like feet. And I'm like, you're a gangster. So I'm like, don't mess with that bird. Okay. And so it is one of those things like, do birds actually go and plant their own food? Do they have a plan for where their next meal is going to come from? Not really, right? And so all of a sudden it says, therefore, I tell you, don't worry about your life. Oh, sorry, I read the wrong one. Sorry. They don't have a storehouse or a barn, yet God feeds them. Okay, so birds don't keep food up in a storeroom or a barn, but yet God feeds them. Aren't you worth much more than birds? Can any of you add a moment to his lifespan about the worry? If then you're not able to do this very little thing, why worry about the rest? Number 2, you need to know your worth. And in anxiety and stress, what we immediately think in anxiety and stress, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I really want y'all to keep me accountable to this, we think like we're the only person dealing with this. We're the only one that we kind of shut ourselves in, and we go, I'm the only one stressing about this. I'm the only one that is feeling this. And not only that, we think, God doesn't care, my parents don't care, my friends don't care, and if I go and ask them or tell them about my stress and anxiety, I'll be bothering them. So we don't want to bother them with our problems. We don't want to bother them with what's going on in our lives and what anxiety, because what does anxiety do after a while when it chinks up that armor? It paralyzes you. But if we know our worth, and we know that genuinely we are so much more than even the birds, and then verse 25 says, can you add a moment to your lifespan? What is he actually saying? Can you add a moment to your lifespan? What does that actually mean? Does anybody have a guess on that? What do you think, Jack? Good, Jack. Like the fear aspect of just not thinking that to be honest, they're even going to listen to us and what we have to bring to them is worth anything. So when it comes to adding just a moment to your life, what does that mean? So what he's actually trying to say is exactly like that. It's like, if you can't elongate time, how many of you are time travelers? Please tell me so I can tell what's going on in this world. Okay? My thing is, also, raise your hand if you want to be a past time traveler. Okay, how many of you want to be a future one to come back? Here it is. Okay, sweet. So, my thing is this. If you can't even add a moment to your life, if you don't even have that power, it says, literally, if you can't even do that little thing, that's how much power and planning and time he has, that he says, why worry about the rest? Because you are worth it to me. I have a plan. Think about the birds. There's no way they keep all their food somewhere that we don't know. If not, they've got a really good hiding spot. Okay? But the idea is, guys, is we sit here and worry, there's nothing for me. No one's going to love me in this. I'm scared of this. I don't know what to do with this. But God is sitting there going, do you know who you are? You're not just some nobody in America, in Texas, in Katy. You're not a number to me, like some of us feel in our high school, in our junior highs, right? We just have that ID. This is who I am. He looks at you and says, you're my son. You're my daughter. I died for you for a purpose. And I have given you identity that you never deserved, so that you can have true fulfillment in me. That's what you're worth. Do you not think I care about you? Do you not think I think about you? Are you more than a bird than me? Yes. And so in those moments of anxiety, we've got to remind ourselves, guys, man, know your worth. Verse 27. Consider how the wild flowers grow. They don't labor or spin thread. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all of his splendor was adorned like one of these. You're saying, how many of you have seen just a beautiful pasture of just wildflowers? It's just colors. Like one of the biggest ones is like, how many of you have been to like a sunflower farm? Where it's just sunflowers for just acres and acres and acres. And you're sitting there going, this is the most gorgeous thing you've ever seen. And if they don't labor over their clothes, and if they don't labor over those things, and Solomon, who was the richest man ever in the history of the world, you'd think he would have some pretty nice clothes, right? Like Lululemon on top, like everywhere, okay? He spent the extra $80 on socks. You know, like it was the high stuff. But he's sitting there going, even he isn't dressed as beautifully as these flowers. And we would all agree with that. But there's just something about nature that you can't duplicate. And it says, if that's how God clothes the grass, which in the field today is thrown in the first furnace tomorrow, how much more will he do for you? If he's going to provide this beauty for grass and flowers, how much more is he going to do for you? And this is where it kind of punches a little bit. You of little faith. Don't strive for what you should eat and what you should drink. And don't be anxious, for the Gentile world eagerly seeks all of these things, and your Father knows what you need. The third one, remind yourself, rely on the Lord to provide. If we know our worth, we know who we are in Christ, we have to then pull ourselves out of this provider mentality. For me, personally, I go in stress and anxiety, I want to save all the money, I want to save all the wood, I want to save all the supplies. I'm like, if someone's throwing out a weed eater, I'm like, maybe I need another one. You know, like I'm sitting and looking at people's garbage and like, how can I store more? Because if a problem comes, my big problem is I've got to fix it. If my baby's crying, I'm going, what do you need? What do you want? How can I help you? But sometimes she just needs to cry, right? I just need to hold her. I can't fix it. That stresses and gives me anxiety beyond belief. Because what I'm trying to do is store up. Because I don't have faith that God is going to provide. I don't have faith that God is going to give me what I need. Whether that's love, comfort, peace, forgiveness, or He's just going to financially pay my taxes. I don't have a lot. I've got a daughter that I've adopted. I'm adopting a second one. That's $32,000 that I have to put in for an adoption. Where is that coming from? Lord, are you going to provide? Or do I need to start doing more and storing up because you haven't thought of me? And he looks at me and he says, you have little faith. Wouldn't I do more for you than I would for the grass and for the flowers? Because verse 30, for the Gentile world eagerly seeks all these things, but your Father knows what you need. So internally, guys, know the Lord knows what you need in those anxiety and stressful moments. But are you even looking to Him to provide for you? Or are you just going into damage control, code red, bunker up, we're in it for the long haul, and you just like go crazy? And that's what I do. Because sometimes my first instinct is to not run to the Lord and say, you're going to provide for me because you're faithful. It's because sometimes I've been hurt in the past, and I think He's going to do that. But even when Nicole said, the Lord has a plan for even what I can think. Last thing. Verse 31. But seek His kingdom, and these things will be provided for you. Seek His kingdom, and these things will be provided for you. Don't be afraid, the little flock. I love He's like, little babies, children, don't be scared. Because your Father delights to give you the kingdom. We're not just begging for the kingdom. He delights to give it to you. How many of you have a grandparent that's literally like, here's everything? And they spoil you like to the 9th degree, and you're just like, Lord, please. Okay? Like my parents literally give my child everything. Everything. And I'm like, no, you can't have it. And they're like, here, you can have it. Like in front of me. Okay? Literally, the delight that they have to look me in the face and smile and go, here. And I'm like, I hate you. Okay? And so, but He delights in giving you the kingdom. Verse 33, sell your possessions and give to the poor. Make money bags for yourself that won't grow old, or an inexhaustible treasure in heaven, where no thief can come near and no moth can destroy. He's going to, if you can actually understand this even further, sell all you have and give it away, because guess what? This stuff is all going to be destroyed. Because verse 34, for where your treasure is, there is your heart also. For me, I put my heart in my house. For me, I put my heart in my money. For me, I put my heart in my relationships. But has my house let me down? Has my money let me down? Have you let me down? Yeah. Where you put your treasure will be your heart. So the last thing, seek the eternal, not the short term. Seek the eternal. That you would actually put your heart in being with Jesus. The one thing that is eternal, the one thing that does provide, the one thing that can give you perspective, the one thing that can give you worth and identity and purpose, the one thing that can actually provide for you in ways that you would have never thought you could ever provide for yourself. That's what Jesus is. That's the eternal. Don't try to put a Band-Aid on something and go, well, if I just do this, then everything will be great. How many of you literally with stress and anxiety, if I can just get through this test, everything's going to be great. If I can just get through this project, next week's going to be better. If I can just get through this period, everything's going to be fine. And if you play that finish line game, the short term, it will always beat you up. Because those things will destroy you. Those things will not fulfill you. It won't give you truth at all. But knowing, man, Jesus Christ is the only thing that I need. Only thing that I need. So what we're going to do, for some of you, you might be stressed tonight. You might have some anxiety. So what we're going to do is like what we did last week. I want you to find a spot in this room. Don't be next to your friends where they can be bothering you and messing with you. Find a spot in this room and spend some time with Jesus for a second. Look at your notes and go, man, how about if I widen my perspective to know your plan? Do I know my actual worth? Do I actually rely on you to provide for me? Do I seek the eternal, or do I just seek the short term? And have that conversation with them. One thing I want to actually encourage you, if you see someone in your, and it might be one of your friends, where you know they're just stressing about something, you want to pray for them, and take this time to go and pray over someone. take some time to actually go and look at them and say, I want to help you widen your perspective. I know you're not alone in this. The body of Christ is for each other. And so you're going to take some time, so go find your spot. I really encourage you, one thing that really helps me is lay on your back. This is what we call the lullaby. For me, if you really don't have a relationship with me, this is what we call lullaby time. And so you just lay on your back, sit wherever you get comfortable, and spend some time with Jesus. Yeah, widen your perspective. Okay, find your spot. Find your spot.